in the slightest. It says waiting on the
Uh,
Ridgeway brief.
yeah, who owns the channel? You gotta click start.
Uh, it is not.
Come
Okay,
on,
it's
Joseph,
now
you can do
working.
it.
The slightest. It says wait.
There you go. It started now.
All right. Well, we're gonna start back over. Good evening, Ridgeway, and welcome to Lector Brief. Finally, in the Ridgeway brief. I'm taken, and to my right is the real meatwad. We are tonight's debate moderators. The two candidates for the seat of sheriff in the Ridgeway County Sheriff's Office are Corporal BR 1452-23-2 and the incumbent sheriff, Daniel Regan. Both candidates have agreed to debate this evening. We would like to note this is a last-minute debate, so we apologize in advance if there are any mistakes. Both candidates have agreed to the debate rules, so we'll get straight into opening statements. We'll let the runner-up BR 1452-23-2 start off with his opening statement.
Oh, all right. Thank you. How much time do I get for that? Or
Just go through it.
all right. Hello, I'm BR 1452232, or whatever the debate mod called me. I am a current corporal within the Sheriff's Department and a proud member of this community for about 4 years. I have served in the department currently for about 4 consecutive years and am a proud father of 3 kids who go to Milton University. I stem from many places of government, from right now as a senator, pro tempore, to a lawyer and a public defender. And I'm here to ensure that the county is safe, which is my intention on running, ensure the sheriff's department is stable as it needs to be. And I am here for you, the person. And that is all. Places of government.
All right. Going to you, incumbent sheriff Daniel Regan. Go ahead with your opening statement.
All right. Good evening. The incumbent sheriff Daniel. This is my 3rd election. Previously, my 2 terms, we've worked to get the sheriff's office to
And
where
that
it
is
is
all.
now, and we're continuing to grow our standards and meet those expectations that everyone has set for us. We are one of the biggest law enforcement agencies in the county, and we hold ourselves to that standard, knowing that every eye is on us, and we have to perform to the best of our ability. And I like to think that I've helped get us there and continue to keep that standard for everyone. There you go.
All right. Mr. BR, we're going to go with you for the first question. What is your opinion on the current state of the sheriff's office?
My opinion on the current state of the sheriff's department. Let me tell you, I think the current state of the sheriff's department is it's not up there. It's not up to par. It's one of our biggest it is the biggest agency in the county, and I don't think the sheriff's department is at a stable state. I think it's stable in some aspects. However, I feel like a lot of the public and a lot of people are left in the dust about the sheriff's department compared to a lot of departments you have out here. I feel like the sheriff's department has unique opportunities and they need to be used. And what the state of the department is, I feel like the department is not using them to their best of the ability, to the best of their ability. I think the sheriff's department has a high staff amount, but low patrol output. You can go in game right now, and there's probably not a lot of deputies or whatnot, and we're being outnumbered by the state police or PPD, and it's just a little embarrassing because if you run one of the largest departments in the game, I feel like your presence should be known. So the state of activity, I also feel like the sheriff's department right now is just our patrol division, especially, is just getting hammered, and they don't want to patrol, and unfortunately, it's sad. It's horrendous. It's horrific. And that sheriff, that's what I plan to do, is get that activity back up in the patrol, get that activity back up all around, and show the great force that the sheriff's department was. And when I'm sheriff, that's what we'll be. We'll be top tier. Nothing but the best. Yeah, that's all.
Quick question. Did you call the Ridgeway County Sheriff's Office the Sheriff's Department?
Yes, he did.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I wasn't freaking out. Okay. Mr. Regan, We're gonna ask you the same question and then you'll rebuttal after. What is your opinion on the current state of the sheriff's office? If you want, you can answer the question, then rebuttal after, and use both times at the same time. So just let us know.
So my current stance on the sheriff's office is that, you know, we've been at the top and we have worked our way up there and we've been staying there for the longest time. Um, when you look at patrol numbers in game, you have to remember that we are in midsummer where a lot of us are teenagers or adults with jobs, and you cannot expect everyone to be on every day, all hours of the day. Um, Especially with the state of the war, a lot of deputies are in the National Guard and participating in the war effort. So you have to remember that not every person is going to be on the sheriff's team. In regards to the state police and PPD, what BR said, activity-wise comparing to them, I like to think that we are one of the most active departments by simplicity of looking at the logs. I think that we match up pretty well, if not better, to all the departments. Um, we have a lot of deputies, but that's because we have a lot of demanding jobs that we need to fill. The opportunities in the sheriff's office are like no other. When it comes to corrections, we have the air support, special response team, 2 investigative divisions, and then patrol on top of it, and training division. Um, so I think we, especially with our training, we excel in that. I think we surpass other departments in regards to that. Our intakes are always large numbers, especially with our correctional officer intakes, would provide more opportunities to not even law enforcement certified people. So when you think about the quality of people we're bringing in, it never goes below our expectations that are set by the public and by ourselves within. So that's all I'm gonna say. Now to rebuttal BR, um, he mentions the Ridgeway Sheriff's Department. Just so you know, it is the sheriff's office. Um, so like we said, you said that PPD and RSP are way above us in activity, which is simply not true. There are times when obviously sheriff's office members won't be online because they have other things to do, whether it be in real life or on the game. Um, it's not like we require them to be on all hours of the day because that's unrealistic. You can't hope that a kid is going to give up his summer to play a game online. That's just not how it works. Um, in regards to giving them opportunities, that's exactly what we do. Um, Even in my first terms as sheriff, I removed people that you would call position holders who were just in the positions and didn't do much toward their job. I removed those people because we needed people who were going to do their jobs and do them well. Um, so I removed them so we can get that going. So it creates more opportunities for the lower ranks to move up and get a chance at commanding and do their jobs well. So I just think we match up against each department as an equal, if not better, because we are one of the largest and we have so many opportunities and excel in those opportunities. So that's all.
All right, Mr. BR, your rebuttal.
There are indeed some points Daniel made, but it's just the activity. I want to go back a little bit for those who don't know. I mean, maybe it's a little irrelevant, but we had a huge ceremony that the governor hosted a while ago. And if you really want to talk about activity, you could talk about the presence of the sheriff's office. Boy, that was actually embarrassing. I don't think a single soul showed up besides me and a lieutenant. But besides the point, um, the sheriff's office is still getting outperformed by these other agencies silently, and you just don't know it. Like it's just happening all over the place. PPD, um, you know, their investigations department is outperforming CID. I mean, we got to step it up. I mean, CID is a wonderful group of people, but if we keep not using them to their fullest ability, then I don't know how the sheriff's office will stay number one. And with the anticipation of Milton coming out, I think more now than ever is to get someone in with some fresh boots, and really wrangle this department up to number one, skyrocket it, stock market skyrocket. Phew. Um, yeah, that's all.
Right. Thanks for the
Right. Yeah.
SIU glaze, but um, Mr. Regan, what plans do you have for the sheriff's office, and how do you plan to execute them?
So a lot of people have been questioning why I haven't released plans or a manifesto or anything like that, it's because when you get down to it, I like to talk to all my supporters and citizens in general. When people ask me, "Hey, why are you running for sheriff?" I try to get as personal as I can to them so that they understand what the basis I'm running on is. And the simple basis of it is you have to listen to what the people have concerns with and get to that, and then do more than that. So one of the biggest concerns that BR and I think, both agree on is transparency in the sheriff's office. Um, Towards the end of probably 2 months ago, um, I really started to boost PR. We had a lot of newsletters coming out and updates, especially in the removal of central command members and higher ups in the department. I try to be as transparent as I could with that, releasing information as to why they were removed or why they resigned, such like that. Especially when it comes to the case of Under Sheriff Daniel Ref. That was a big thing that I wanted to get public eyes on. Now, obviously, everything in the sheriff's office can't be disclosed to the public when it comes to investigations and stuff like that, which I'm not sure how well versed BR is in that because obviously he's not part of CID. So when he talks about the performance of them, he has no clue what he's talking about. Not every investigation is to be released. Most of them we just send right to the Department of Justice um, because we see no point in, releasing details that need to be classified for the court case. When it comes to transparency, one of the things I want to issue is public relations and finding someone who's really dedicated to stepping up. We did have two people in the public relations department who would take the job as PR lead, for instance, and then those people stepped down. So I'm looking to find someone that's coordinated and willing to do the job because I know it takes a lot. So that's one of the few things that I want to get done, as well as making sure the divisions are stable. Right now, special response team had a lot of people resign recently, so I'm going to work with the captain myself and make sure with the SRT command that we can figure out how to best staff them. In regards to intakes, we're looking to find people that are qualified in the reinstatement and transfer intake that we're about to do right now. Applications are open. We're doing that with the idea of bringing in experienced people to help fill the opportunities that we have so many of. And then after LETC is done, we're trying to give more people an opportunity to get them in the department and get their job started. So it all comes down to, keeping our department manned and with qualified people. I always say quality over quantity, and that's a very well-known saying because it's true. We don't want people who are just going to sit there and do nothing in their jobs. We want people who are ready to do their jobs well. So I think the best way to execute that is intakes and training of like specialties to their best ability. Whether you're in patrol, whether you're in CID, SRT, anywhere, you need to be trained and you need to know how to do your job and do it well. So I think that's a few things that I want to get done immediately. BR, you got it.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
Mr. BR.
it's like
Same question to you. Do you need me to restate it?
um yeah, you can restate it. Sure, go ahead.
Plans do you have for the sheriff's office, and how do you plan to execute them? Once
Excuse me,
again,
you
uh,
cut out.
what plans do you have for the sheriff's office, and how do you plan to execute them?
Yeah, absolutely. So my plans for sheriff's department is simple. Once again, like me and Daniel mutually agree on, is transparency. Transparency is number one. And who does transparency affect? The public. So it's important to be transparent with the public. And how I'll do that? Well, day one, we're getting in that PR division, we're getting that secondary division, we're getting in there, we're getting these well-talented public relations individuals up in this department, and we're going to do events for the public because that's what the public needs is events to know that their sheriff's department's with them, along with other things such as the activity. Incentives is the number one way to get people up on their feet. The department is lacking a little bit of incentives, and it's on, the willpower and mental struggle of some deputies to just go patrol. I know Daniel said something about people have work and people are busy and people have this and that, but at the same time, you're just patrolling, protect, at the end of the day, it's a Lego game, and there's no incentives really driving these deputies to do something. And when I'm in the sheriff's department, incentives are going to go way up. We're going to have more rewards these deputies can have that are more enticing, so that not only does it benefit the department's activity, but the public can also see that their deputies are patrolling. Another thing you mentioned about ID and the public, I get some of that. Don't get me wrong. I was a lawyer, or I am currently still a certified lawyer. I understand that not everything can be public, but at least reports or statistics, which I will gladly show best to my legal ability, show to the public that, hey, your sheriff's department, criminal investigation division is out here doing the work, getting that work done, catching those criminals and so much more. I think the sheriff's department right now, like I said before, is at that limbo state, and it just really needs those fresh boots to get in there with the hammer and drive them. Daniel has had months to get this stuff, months to get a PR division, months, but all of a sudden it's election time, and whoa, now we got to do something. It's not how it works. You cannot start now. You had to start before. You're saying you're doing this stuff now, but you should have done it before. I yield my time. That's all.
All right, Mr. Regan, your rebuttal.
He can't get on the stage. He's been trying for like.
All right, there we go. So BR, you can answer this like right now. I just have a question. You mentioned you wanted to go in with a hammer. Is that your quote?
Go in with a hammer of force to get this department strengthening. Gotta hammer the
Okay. Okay.
holes.
So
The whole. You can take it out of
okay.
context if you
So
want.
in my experience, in my experience being
Yeah.
a
Okay.
man, using a hammer on a hole only makes the hole bigger. Now, if you used a nail, you might cover that hole, but obviously
Mm,
you didn't think of that. It just goes to show,
right.
you're careless to details. That's not something a sheriff should be. Now, you mentioned, going in with a hammer and fixing these issues. Sometimes I don't think you realize that these issues cannot be met with force. Sometimes they need to be met with a middle ground or understanding what you're dealing with. So if you go into the same situation or a different situation with the same response, it's only going to hurt. You have to be understanding and you have to meet a middle ground with these people that you're working with because every situation is different. And I've realized that as the sheriff, every situation is very different from the next. So every situation deserves and requires different approaches to everything. So some instances with my central command in the past, I've had to go in to a captain who maybe wasn't doing their job and say, "Hey, I don't know what's happening, but you're not performing to what we need you to do," and it fixed it. Sometimes they don't listen, and then you meet with them with force, and it's like I said, every situation is different. So I think that going in with the force, like you're saying, is very dangerous. And you talk about how you want to build the department up, but
Mm,
that would only tear it apart. So
can
that's all my rebuttal for now.
rebuttal.
Sure, keep it short and sweet.
All right. So actually, it was funny enough because I was looking for my hammer, and turns out it just hit you in the head. But besides the point, what I meant by going to hammer is by fixing things, and I want to fix things. And by saying hammer, I didn't mean go in full force and full on karate chop up all over the place. Of course, everyone has different scenarios. Everyone's different problems. As a sheriff's, as the leader, and as the sheriff, you should be open to the public, to your deputies, to any situation that's on the table. Going in screaming full force, yes, I agree, is not the most optimal way. But I didn't say it like that. I said it as a way, as a metaphor to fix up. And if something's leaking, then you got to patch it up, get some flex tape on there, which unfortunately I don't think Reagan has flex tape because he's a little broke, but I yield.
Yeah, I had to spend all the money on buying your mom ice cream. She's a hefty woman.
Oh yeah. Whew. Yeah, don't get me started.
All right, guys. Let's not forget who's wearing the pink fuzzy handcuffs. All right.
Right.
This one's for you, Mr. B.
Oh boy.
Actually, I asked you first. Sorry, let's go to Mr. Regan. What promises do you have for the employees of the sheriff's office? Mr. Daniel Regan.
The hammer must have hit him.
I
Holy.
thought
There.
you said BR first. That's not me.
Alright.
Promises I have towards the employees of the sheriff's office. So the only promise I'm going to make you is this: we have done great work in the past 2 terms that I have been sheriff. The promise I want to make to you is that if I'm elected again, we're going to continue to do that and more, because we have been at a stable and exceedingly high standard, and we're going to only increase that standard and make everyone realize that it's truly the best department. We've proven that time and time again, and we're going to only prove that more. When you think about promises that employees want, they're looking for perks and they're looking for everything else. I understand that. I was obviously a low rank at one time, and I understand that it can be a struggle to get in game when there's not much reward to do it. So obviously there's incentives that come with patrolling, and with divisions, specialized divisions, you have a little bit more fun. But we cannot forget about the patrol members who make up majority of our department. When it comes down to it, the promise I will make to you is that the sheriff's office is and will continue to be a fun place of work, and we're always going to have your back. That's one of my biggest things as the sheriff, is having my deputies back when it comes to troubling times, whether it's in real life or in the game. I always back up my guys. And I try to keep it that way so that they realize they have a sense of belonging. So if I am elected, I will make sure that you have a sense of belonging while having fun, and really do get your job done. That's all I have.
All right. Mr. BR.
What promises do I have for employees of the sheriff's office? Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell them they're going to get those benefits. Those, or as Daniel called them, perks, not fentanyl, but those, those benefits you get for patrolling, being active, being such a good member of the department. And I'm telling these deputies, I'm telling you right now, if you're listening, that the sheriff's department, even though it may be slacking, it will be number one once again. And I can promise you that we'll have more PR events, and we can get you involved, and we can open up more divisions and more interest, like the current divisions and more interest, gets deputies more involved in the department and wanting to pursue their interests. I can promise that I know some, divisions have president, like you need to have this experience, that. I think the sheriff's department should be an open department for anyone to do anything they wish they want to do and get into. So, like, that's what I promised you, deputies. I'm going to get you, if you want to join a division, well, you can join that division, but you got to do the application, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to make sure these divisions hire frequently when needed and appropriately. I'm also going to make sure that I'll open up opportunities for deputies to do special things like protection of senators, which is a responsibility we do, which we don't use a lot. And I feel like we could do that a little bit more, and we can give so much more like protection, and we could do events, like I've said before, and these deputies can really use that, and it can really boost up the sheriff's department drive. We can work with the courts, use more bailiffs, stuff like that. I think sheriff's department and its deputies have nothing to worry about when I'm elected. And the promise I make to you is that you will have a blast. You'll have probably one of the best times in that department.
Mr. Regan, your rebuttal?
I don't really have a rebuttal there. That was just like promises. I'm not gonna rebuttal his promises.
All right. You, Mr. BR. What is your opponent's greatest flaw?
Be honest, I'll say activity. Now, you might be wondering, what do you mean by activity? Well, if you're in the sheriff's department, you would know Daniel does take a lot of LOAs. I know he recently, graduated. Congratulations to you. But I've just seen the lackluster of activity and drive from Daniel. Not to mention, he was willing to go all out on the governor elections and leave the sheriff's office behind. I mean, hey, if you ask me, that's pretty much his okie dokie out of the office, If Daniel had that activity and that passion and that drive he has for the game, like I do, clearly, because I make these corny videos that like people like. But if you have that drive, like I do, and love this community, like I do, then Daniel wouldn't be. I wouldn't be even competing against Daniel. But unfortunately, as soon as he has an opponent, he got to wake up. Cracks the smelling salt, wakes up, and he's active. Intakes, you know, so much other things within the department. He's waking up. And another weakness or another flaw. No offense, Daniel, but hopefully your heartburn doesn't kick in. But this guy eats tubs of ice cream like no tomorrow. Okay, this guy's a beast at the computer. If the sheriff has a heart attack on duty, this department's over with. I can't have a sheriff that's obese and needs to take Pepto-Bismol 24/7. Yeah, I yield my time, Mr. Debate Moderator.
Mr. Regan.
Right. So I think my opponent's greatest flaw is his inability to be serious and actually get some work done. When you look at his time in the Senate, you don't see many things besides joking laws and joking activity during the Senate sessions and stuff like that. So I think if you have that in the Senate, how are you going to lead a department when you're part of a Senate that is comprised of a couple of members who do a lot, and you can't take that seriously? How are you supposed to be the head of the department where 100 people rely on you to do your job each day in a serious manner? That's not very sheriff of you if you cannot do that, which I think I've done a pretty good job at. Now, I know BR can't be serious when he has 13-year-olds watching his videos and he has to make, videos that cater to that group. I understand that. Um, he talks a lot about, eating ice cream. Like I said, I went out for ice cream earlier with his mom. It was a great time, but, that stuff happens. He mentions how I graduated. Thank you for congratulating me. Now, I take it you don't know what a senior week is because you sit at home and do not party. I'm not going to judge you for not partying, but I think once in a while it's not too bad of an idea to get out and like touch some grass. Um,
Mm.
if you need, I can, reach out, find a couple kids, and maybe have you like a birthday party once in a while. I don't know if that's like parents neglect or if that's just because like no friends are around. So,
Reaching
like
out
I
to
said,
kids.
you know,
Yeah, the only
I have.
neglecting that's happening is when I put it in your mom. That's if
Oh,
you're talking about
Okay,
parent neglect.
guys.
yeah,
That's
No more. No
that's
more.
sorry,
No
sorry. I
more of
just
these
had to. I had
jokes.
to crack it, but
well,
I had to
like,
crack it.
see, you put it in
No
my mom, but my mom
more.
or your mom puts it in.
Shut
Jordan.
up.
Yeah.
Shut
All right,
up.
say that to your baby
Like,
sister
there's
and
a
my mom.
difference.
Hey!
There's a difference.
Wow! Hey! This will remain civil, or else I'll start handing out moderator warnings. Don't play with me. But those are some weird statements, alright? It's not mentioned talking to kids and all this other stuff. Alright. Wow.
Can I rebuttal those claims?
No, I think we're just gonna move past them.
No, I really would love to.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna hand it
Alright.
off to my co-host here, the real
Yeah, let's just keep
meatwad.
hammering away.
All right, and for Daniel Reagan, what are some of your strengths? There's no rebuttal for this.
My strength, I would say. Now, contrary to BR's belief, I think my activity is one of them. I have been an active community member for about 4 years. I have continuously shown my effort and activity in the group, going from the sheriff's office, working my way up to CID lieutenant, and then going to RSP to get other experience, working as a patrol lieutenant there, and then eventually coming back to the sheriff's office in August of 2023, which I've served there since. So I think my activity has really been a pivotal thing for me. Um, Back a little bit ago, we had the game being dead. Um, a lot of members of the sheriff's office, state police, PPD, everywhere. The game was dead, and no one wanted to get on because it was just a terrible time for the game and the group itself. I came from that. I used my activity to increase the activity of the sheriff's office and eventually the entire law enforcement community because we had the sheriff's office who required logs during that time by my recommendation and my choice to make sure that the sheriff's office wasn't going to go into that kind of depression. And then from there, we got back up, the game dies again, and we went right back to our strategy and got the sheriff's office to come right back up again. So I think my activity influences other people to do their jobs well and do them like they're supposed to do. that's what I think is one of my biggest strengths, is my ability to be active and be a part of people's careers and lives in general. Um, not even on a career level, but on a personal level. They know me, and I think that makes such a great bond. And we're able to find a middle ground easier together, so that when there are issues, the middle ground works together, and we find somewhere where we can meet, we can handle it, and we move on from there in a better way. So that's all I have to say. I yield.
All right, and for BR.
My greatest strengths. Well, Daniel's gonna laugh at me for this, but I'd say my greatest strength is being real. I mean, I'm a real person. I'm not a robot. I make mistakes, and I feel like, me being real and having that leadership capability that I've had leading the Senate, and I led, if you don't know, a small community called Barafio, so the undersheriff. I led those deputies really well. They would vouch, but that's my strength. I'm a real person. I'm experienced. In what I do, and I really take every word into account. You know, I really think that my leadership and my thought of being a real person and being like, I'm a real human, because people get intimidated talking to, your boss, and I feel like these deputies need some reassurance, like, hey, they're going to get someone in here who is strong with leadership, strong with people skills, and like actually knows how to run everything like a smooth train. Now, I'm going to pull Trump here. I want to go back to something you mentioned about CID or some. If you count your greatest strength as being forced to resign as a CID lieutenant, that's one of your strengths, and with leadership and whatnot, yeah, that's a doozy. And then the backtrack on what he said before about my strength and stuff. I know that's not the question, but I just want to go backtrack a little bit. Actually a very mature person, it might not seem like it, because I make videos and whatnot, but I mean, right, of course. But I really mean what I say, I really enjoy
13-year-olds.
what I. Okay, dude, is this
Oh,
guy
All
real?
right,
Let's
mister.
chill. Let's chill.
Let's
Is this
calm it
guy
down. All
real?
right. This is not funny.
That's a big accusation, buddy.
That's a wild accusation.
I don't know about that, but
Absolutely.
But firstly, before we get back into it, and PDH is in the audience here. Some guy who got basically thrown out of the community, but surprised to see him here. All right, back to you, Mr.
Yeah,
Meatwad.
that's who I'm actually
All
running
right.
against, by the way.
yeah, I'm gonna
So
go ahead.
anyway, as I was saying, I'm really mature when it comes to it. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. The Senate, I lead that maturely. And he says my bills are not mature. Well, if you actually read a single bill, they've actually helped the courts with so many things. I have, failure to appear. We got the honking stuff, the horn honking limitations higher because people thought that was annoying. And they also thought, oh, yeah, we also got the dueling act. That was a good one. Aaron Burr, that was a good one. You can call that a joke, but that was legitimate.
Yeah.
And then we also got the
The self glazing is over. All right,
Okay,
I think you've
well, I'm
answered
just
the question
saying.
adequately.
Yeah. And Dan Reagan, I'm gonna let you give a rebuttal, but let's keep his mom out of it, right?
All right, give me a second.
All right, take your time.
So, BR, you mentioned my activity as the CID lieutenant, and how I was forced to resign, which is funny because you weren't forced to resign when you got demoted to deputy, in April of 2022. I believe that was from correctional service. That's kind of funny you mentioned,
Mm,
being forced to remove. Now, it makes you question why you bring up my activity, this whole CID with it thing, when I mentioned my activity and not what happened, regarding that situation. So you mentioned in your manifesto, if that's what you want to call it, that, you know, the whole governor campaign, my tactics in it. But it seems that you're doing the same thing. So I don't know how much hypocritical ideas go through your head. But if you want to keep those to a minimum, that'd be awesome. So I can clearly understand you. That's pretty much all I have.
All right, and for BR, what characteristics or
Can I
abilities do? Oh, what?
Let's see if I could say something rebuttal back.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Daniel, you know what? I don't know. I don't know where you're getting this from. I mean, yes, I resigned from CCS sergeant. I guess you could call it forceful. But the one thing I never do is commit crimes. Now, whoa, Daniel, you've committed some crimes. You know, I mean, I've heard about the things you've done. You just commit a lot. You commit some crimes. You know what I mean? And I just feel like I know it was mentioned at the Matrix debate, and you threw a hissy fit at Matrix because it was thrown down and stuff. But I mean, if the public really wants a sheriff who is a former quote unquote former criminal, then hey, go ahead by all my means. You know, pick the criminal who sits and eats ice cream and plays with his little pink handcuffs all you want. But if
Yeah,
you really
there's
want a
not-
real man, some real boots up in here, you know who to vote for.
All right. And for BR, let me pull it up. What characteristics or abilities do you believe matter most as a county sheriff?
What characteristics or abilities? I think the ability to lead and having that characteristic of leading, probably one of the most important abilities you need to have as a sheriff. Once again, the sheriff's department is the number one the number one agency in the entire game. The sheriff's office is by far the biggest. And in order to lead it, I think a sheriff needs a really great characteristic of leading, which I do have before. And then also the characteristic of just being honest too. You gotta be up and honest. If you're not an honest, transparent sheriff, then you shouldn't be leading the sheriff's office at all. And I feel like that's something the sheriff really needs. And if the sheriff doesn't have those characteristics, then the entire office falls. You know, there's a reason it's called the sheriff's office, you know, hence the name sheriffs. But it's really, really, really important to have be active, have the characteristic to lead, etc., etc. You know, like if a sheriff doesn't have those good characteristics, you know, and their department takes forever to process FD background checks, then hey, I mean, I guess that's a good characteristic, but no. You need someone who's up in here who's going to lead, take charge, and really show the county that, hey, the sheriff's department is here. And I believe I possess those characteristics that would display that.
Okay. And Daniel Reagan?
Is it the same question?
Yeah.
So I think one of the characteristics that I currently hold, and I think that makes a good leader for the county sheriff, is like I said before, the ability to find a middle ground between you and all your deputies below you. Um, kind of like BR said, you know, you are the sheriff. You have the most charge in the department. You are looked at with a very, very strong microscope in a way. So I think one of the best things you can do is work with the people that work for you. I try to work for my deputies as much as I can. With any request they have, I try to fulfill it myself right then and there if I can. If I can't, I try to get someone who can in that moment. I try not to push things off because I know how it feels. If they if it doesn't get done relatively soon, they start feeling like they're being ignored. Whether it's like a database issue or a permission for the game, like to use an unmarked car, I try to get right on that because I feel like finding that middle ground is such an important thing. You guys have like I have to be able to communicate with people that work below me in a sense. Um, when it comes to finding the middle ground, you have to find a way to do that, or the department is going to fail. Whether it is an issue or something you need help with, a middle ground is always going to help you out. And I think that's one of the things I've done best is work with other people, not even inside the department, but external like relationships to make sure that department strives continuously. That's all.
Okay. And for BR, what is your view on the current crime rate and how do you plan to make it better?
What's my current view on the crime rate? And how do we make it better? Good question. The crime rate's high. We're at an active state of war. You know, the crime rate has always been high in Ridgeway County, and I do understand it's a Roblox game and crime is part of the game. The only way to help bring down crime is to stop crime before it starts. the sheriff's department or any law enforcement, the sheriff's office, sorry, and the entire of all law enforcement agencies should be doing this. But we gotta have programs that help people be legal, you know, like corrections and stuff. Prevent people from doing the criminal activity will make people not commit crime, and that will bring crime down. Now, of course, people have crime walls and stuff. So another way you can prevent crime is just putting more boots, or current boots, on the ground and have them patrolling and doing active policing. But the number one way I would say to stop crime and make the crime rate go lower and better is to stop crime at its tracks, which is crime prevention. Number one way to make crime less and make the county safer. Like I said, more programs, PR, getting the community involved with each other, and more events will help bring people together and lower the crime rate significantly down. It is probably one of the best ways to do it. Like I said, boots on the ground, and also using and informing the public, like how to report crime through the Department of Justice or criminal investigation division, and using the resources that the sheriff's office has and giving those to the public will help bring crime down so much. And along with as long as teaching people, how they, where to get guns and stuff to help legal citizens defend themselves from crime. And if we combine all this, crime prevention, more boots, information to the public, and firearms, we can surely help reduce the crime in the county overall.
Okay. And Danny Reagan.
So my view on the current crime rate is that it fluctuates. Some days there are days when there are a lot of criminals in game, and it almost seems like the law enforcement is overrun. Now there are some days where it's dead, and there are a million law enforcement officers online, and there's maybe 3 criminals that are not doing anything, which both have its pluses, if I might say. Obviously, one of the big things that everyone calls this game is cops and robbers. That's one of the basic names for Ridgeway and all of the other communities that are like Ridgeway. The crime really does make the game active. So in a sense, we need crime. We need crime. We need criminals. We need them to partake in our society so that we have a society to play in.
Mm.
You can't eliminate crime entirely because one, it'll never happen with the amount of alternate accounts and people who are just not willing to reform themselves. But when you come down to it, the way that you can make it better and protect the innocent is, like BR said, which I agree on, is informing them about high crime rates in areas that are currently being occupied by a gang, let's say, how to get guns to defend themselves properly, even like tips on how to barricade their houses better so that if they do own a house and they're legal, that they can make a safer house so that they can take shelter in it. Just the basics of self-defense as well. When it comes to crime prevention, BR said exactly what I was thinking is you have to report it to the Criminal Investigations Division or any other investigative division of your choosing, as well as the Department of Justice. That's the way these crimes get stopped, is you get the evidence, you send it in, and we handle the rest from there. And we can make it as discreet as needed so that you're not getting targeted for it. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, and they consider it being a snitch or whatever, and it's not always that simple.
And
So,
begin to wrap it up, please.
yep. And we also have our TAC teams, our air support, everyone like that, where we send those teams out like occasionally when crime is really high, even when crime is not high, but there are certain situations that are going on, such as a hostage situation, so that we can deploy, get those situations handled, and call it a day. So that's pretty much all I got.
Okay. And would either you like to give a rebuttal?
I guess I can give a rebuttal, but
All
I
right.
just want to make a statement to add on. I do agree with Daniel. Crime is one of probably the most important functional aspect of the game right now. I think I kind of mentioned that, but I want to touch up on it a little bit more. Crime is functional, or crime is a functional thing for the game. It needs to happen for the society of the game to function. But we need to find that balance. Is there too much crime or too less crime? Right now, yes, we're at a state of war, but still there is tons of crime. There's new gangs coming in all the time. And I think that if the public really wants to have lower crime, and so do I would have lower crime. That way you just got to work together. And that's what I plan to do is with the crime prevention, CID tip line, more boots on the ground. All this will help balance this criminal activity out. So it's not too much nor too little. Because if you have too little, then who the hell is going to play the game? If you have too much, well, you don't want to spawn in and get shot in the face, So that's my stance on why we need crime in the game and where it should lie within the scope of the crime rate.
Okay. And for Danny Reagan, what does your leadership style look like?
My leadership salad.
Style.
Dude, I was about to say, like, what do you want me to start doing? Listing traits?
Nope. Nope.
My leadership style, again, I'm going back. I feel like I'm like repeating this over and over again. I like biggest middle ground I can. That's something I just love to do because it gets a perspective from each side that we have. Obviously, there's two sides to every story, and I want to make sure that before any decisions are made on anything, we get input from everyone that's affected. When it comes to department policy, I try to gauge from who it's going to affect, whether it be an SRT handbook, whether it be the patrol guidelines, whether it be the department handbook in general. We need to make sure that everyone that's going to be affected has a voice a part of that. So one of the things I implemented was it's called boots on the ground, which all the deputies can go in and kind of make suggestions to what they want to see in the department. A big thing was like the patrol vest. They didn't like the one that we have currently, so we found a middle ground between command and between deputies of having it where you can wear it during a state of emergency on shifts where sergeants authorize it, which also increases the benefit of going to an actual shift that's hosted by a sergeant or above, so that we have actual sergeants patrolling. You have a supervisor that can do supervisor requests all the time, scene bands, all that kind of stuff. It makes it a little realistic, which going back to the previous question, it can kind of help regulate crime a little bit. If the criminals play along into the role play aspect almost of it, you'll have actual crime scenes that you can kind of control and, give out what you need to do here and there. It makes it a little bit more fun and realistic for deputies to play inside of that. But trip style, I just feel like meeting that middle ground is always a good thing. You get to hear from all sides, and you get to find a decision that's not going to hurt anyone, but it's going to be the best option possible for everyone. So I think that's a big thing to do. And sometimes being a leader means you have to make hard decisions by yourself, which I understand. And I think I've pretty much done that my entire 2 terms so far. When it comes to Central Command, some of my Central Command towards the start of my term,
Can you begin to wrap it up?
my
Right.
first term when I walked in, it wasn't pretty. So I had to step in and make some hard choices, which included the removal of some captains, even my undersheriff himself. And those are decisions that leaders need to make. And that's what I continue to do. That's all I got.
Okay. And BR.
Leadership style, I would say, is honest. I've never BS'd. I try my best not to BS when it's needed, and I really feel like my leadership style is really a one that's like, hey, I'm here for you. Like I'm gonna be with, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm gonna help you, through the thick and thin, and that's what I plan to do as sheriff. In the office, if it goes through a rough hill, I'm here for you. If it goes through a great hill or a good hill, I'm here with you. My leadership style is one that's, I guess you could say, the add-on is a little not simple, but it's decent or good. It's good. I always prioritize the deputy than myself, or the person than myself. It's about them, not me. The sheriff's office wouldn't exist without the hardworking souls that work in it. I'm the figurehead. I'm the one who's leading it. But without them, there wouldn't be a sheriff's office. So it's important to be transparent with your deputies, transparent with your leadership, transparent with your high command, etc. And transparent with the government, because the sheriff's office, and the government, sometimes they don't get along together. But I think with my leadership style, I think we can all come together and be a very successful department within the state for many times to come, or many millennium. I mean, I don't know if Ridgeway will last for many millennium, but and that's it. I yield.
Okay. And now for the specific questions. BR, how would you run the sheriff's office differently than Danny Reagan?
Good question. I think I answered this a little bit before when you asked about how I would run the office. But I just the events, you know. One thing that I don't like about the current administration of the sheriff's office is that there's just a lack of PR, a lack of events, a lack of anything for the department to do to give to the public. And I feel like the public really wants more events because events are fun. Events are really fun. And I would run the sheriff's department by having those more events and more of those fun, active events for deputies and the public to do. Another thing I would do that would be different than my opponent is just, you know, the incentives. You know, there's some incentives that are written in policy, but I feel like there's a lot more to be given, and I would run the department with not based off incentives, but the activity on incentives. Sorry. I'd also run the department different than the office than Daniel Reagan by being present. You know, I know Daniel's been busy, even though he says I should touch grass. I feel like the sheriff's office needs its public head. It is the sheriff's office. It isn't the, you know, people's office. The sheriff's office. People work for the sheriff, and the sheriff has to be there for the public. You can't do one without the other. If the public doesn't support you, then you can't have a sheriff's office. And if the sheriff doesn't support the people, then you can't have a sheriff's office. It doesn't work like that. So I would just run it in a way that, you know, brings that all together and really shows that I care for people inside and out the department.
Okay. And for Danny Reagan, it has been said in a recent announcement by your challenger that you have not made any promises if you get reelected. What do you have to say about that?
Again, I feel like I'm just repeating at this point, because I did mention this before, and I mentioned this to him as well in game. I feel like a lot of those promises, everyone makes promises realistically. Everyone makes promises in every campaign that's run. And to be honest, those promises are never, little to none, are fulfilled. Promises cannot always be kept. They make promises that are not realistic because they've never held that office before. In BR's case, he makes promises that they have been tried, and those promises end up not working out for the betterment of the department. When you look at what I'm promising you another term of stability and leadership and activity from the sheriff's office where we can continue to set the high standard that we have and meet those expectations with a great department. I have said over and over again that our expectations of the sheriff's office are very, very high, and we're going to meet them every single time and surpass them every single time because that's what we do over here at the sheriff's office. We beat every expectation, and we continue to go right past every other department in every aspect. And I just think that promising, you know, incentives for patrolling and all of that stuff does not work when you're looking to really change and make a good stand at an election. That doesn't do much, making promises that you don't know if are going to come true. So, like I said, the only thing I can promise to you guys is that we're going to have another stable term and we're going to keep getting better. And I think that's all anyone can ask for because those promises about incentives, they likely never come true. It has to be in the moment and it has to be looked at, and you cannot promise them from the outside's perspective because BR, like I said before, has not held the office. He does not know the insides of the RCSO. So he cannot make promises on stuff that he's not familiarized with. That's a big thing. So I yield.
Okay, and now for the audience questions. We ask that you please keep your questions on topic and appropriate. If not, you will be removed from the stage. You'll be given the opportunity to ask your question either one or both of the candidates. If the question only applies to one candidate, the opponent may give rebuttal. And do we have a hands up in the audience all?
Somebody DM me a question. I'll shoot that one out for now. This is for both of you. Will any new positions be opened in the sheriff's office under your administration?
Wait, was that for both of us? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Yeah.
that first.
Yeah.
Am I going first? Or okay, yeah. BR, they said you go first.
Will any new positions be open in the sheriff's department? That was the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say this of honesty, probably not. The CEO and the programs we have and these positions that are currently opened are what keeps the balance. If you keep adding on to the fire, or not the fire, but you keep adding more doors, then the department loses its balance. You know, think of a orchestra, right? If you have too much of one instrument and less of another, it doesn't blend, right? So if you keep opening these positions up and keep opening and promising positions, I feel like the sheriff's department will just become a very unbalanced workplace, because you don't want like 30 CID investigators, like 40 or like 20 IA and like 20 something who SRT and a bunch of pilots, but with that in mind, opening, I think the one division that will always stay open, and the one thing or the new or only positions that would stay open and be added would be for patrol, because like I said, patrol is the backbone, it's the foundation of the department. Anything else, it's probably not going to add anything new, because you can't oversaturate a department with so many roles and divisions and titles, because then it becomes a hot mess, and we don't want the sheriff's department to be a hot mess. Or sheriff's office, sorry. Stuck in my head.
Okay, and do we have any other questions? I know there's one guy, the first say law duty wants to ask y'all.
Oh, did Daniel answer?
Yeah, I didn't get to answer that.
No, Dan didn't answer.
Oh yeah, that's right. My bad.
So, opening new positions in the sheriff's office. One, I think BR and I both agree, is the sheriff's office has a lot of opportunities already.
Mm.
I think the sheriff's office gives deputies and citizens enough opportunities to get involved, whether it's the correctional officer system, whether it's in joining the sheriff's office as a deputy. Once you're a deputy, obviously you have many choices. You can go to patrol, CID, internal affairs, SRT, AOU, training division, all of that. So when you look at those opportunities, I think we have plenty of those. Now, there are times when I want to open positions, such as more public relations initiatives to get people involved with PR. I think that's one of the big things. When you look at just staffing of other divisions, we have spots that we want to get people in that are qualified and really do their jobs well. Outside of that, I know me and my command personally have been speaking with me and my central command, I should specify, have been working with other command members to possibly opening up a couple of different positions. I can't really speak on much because it's still in the working stages, but we're looking at creating a bit more command opportunities so that the deputies who have been in the department for a long time and are experienced and do want to get their foot on the ground in command and really help out, I don't think we should be holding those people back. And my command agrees on that. So we're looking at how we can structure the department so that we have the most efficient outcome of command members to deputies. And even those deputies who might not have the rank of sergeant are still able to give themselves an opportunity to be in a command sense, whether it's in their squad or whatever it is. They can kind of get that role for themselves. So I yield.
Okay, and is there any other question, Joseph?
Alright, there's the ones off to the side.
All right. Hang on, there's one in my DMs. From Chap342, this is for both candidates. What would you do to increase transparency in public affairs in RCO upon coming sheriff? I think y'all have answered this like 3 times, so if y'all want to go ahead and answer it, go ahead. But
Sure.
all right.
Keep it short.
Okay, sure. Like I said before, public relations, newsletters, reaching out to the public, it's the best way to increase transparency within the sheriff's office and to show that the sheriff's department is a very transparent department. Because like I said, if the sheriff's office lacks events or, showing the public that we're doing stuff, then there isn't really transparency. And you gotta be upfront and honest. And that's what I plan to do as sheriff, is to make the office very transparent and very proactive with the public to show that, hey, we are doing stuff.
Okay. This TYP dude to my left, he has a question for y'all.
Oh, Daniel has to,
I answer
unless
What? Oh, yep. Sorry about that.
So, Chappie, like we said, we answered this question before, but I'm just going to give you kind of a shorter version of what I've said. To increase transparency, I really want to work on getting public relations involved a little bit more than they have been. Now, the trouble with it is we're finding that not many people want to be involved in public relations, especially as like the PR head almost. So we're trying to plan events, and we've had people come in with ideas, and we've been working on it, but we cannot find a person, like a deputy, kind of to step up into that role, which is what I want. I want that deputy to be able to have the ability to come into a command position almost. You might not get the rank of sergeant, but you're doing a command responsibility. So I'm looking to help find someone with that, so that we can have an active public relations, because obviously I'm spread out throughout the entire department. But public relations is a big focus. With the transparency, I've been trying to do newsletters on updates with central command issues, as well as just department, intakes when we get new members, any issues that are in the department that we've run into or fixed, and just stuff like that, so that the public is truly informed. And we're going to continue to be bringing those back, as well as hosting events when we can figure out where we can upgrade our public relations division. So we can go to the next. Thanks for the question.
And this TYP dude, he I don't know, he's going to answer on here in the chat, but
He's in the voice.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yo, bad. Okay, 1 second. Let me just fix this. Okay. There's a lot of yap about transparency. I think you're both going to be very transparent. Daniel has been transparent, but as a lawyer, I'm more concerned about internal affairs. I've been involved with lawyers. I was going to sue the entire department, but it ended up being resolved on behalf of someone else. This is all.
hello.
Oh, can you hear me? Bruh, I was
Yep.
just.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. There's a big issue in Ridgeway about people not being able to control F a Google Sheet document. The internal affairs in the sheriff's office and in other departments somehow violates every single administrative law there is ever. And that's a big issue. And I think BR as a lawyer would do a very good job addressing this. He's seen it, and it's a problem.
This is a great question.
How are you going to fix that?
Like, who do you want to go first?
is that
Martin?
directed towards the current sheriff,
Yeah, I don't know.
or because
Yeah, it
we're
is.
talking about his administrator? Okay.
So, thank you for the question. That's a very good question. One of the things we try to do as best as we can is work with our Office of General Counsel. Recently, we did have mandatory morale in our General Counsel, but obviously we know that he is no longer in the community to an extent. So we are looking for lawyers to keep joining our team and keep making us legally stronger. As for the database myself, I'm going to be quite frank with you and be transparent as I can. I'm not familiar with the issue you're referencing, but I can promise you that I'm going to look at it starting like right now as soon as
Yeah.
this debate is over. And I want to recognize the issue with it and get it resolved as quickly as possible. Because like you said, that is an issue and that's a very pressing issue that we need to fix. And one of the things I'm campaigning on is being as open to criticism and issues as I can be so that we can get them resolved. So I want to get that resolved right away. So I appreciate you bringing that to my,
Yeah, because
my desk.
it's a big problem. All right, thank you.
And then who's our next question? All right. What is your plans with the inactivity in AOU? Myself, I haven't seen any / if so, it is very, very rare to see. And AOU is something the county needs to assist not only other departments but the residents of the county. I don't
I'm sorry,
know.
what?
What
How
is
do you
your
know-
plans with the inactivity in AOU? Myself, I haven't seen any. If so, it is very, very rare to see. I don't know what AOU is, but
It's
That's
the
the Air
error.
Operations Division or unit.
um,
Is
So
that
I
directed
guess
to someone, or is that both of us?
it doesn't say.
Both
I
answer
guess
it?
that, yeah, I'll let you both answer it then.
Alright.
Just for now.
The question was
yeah.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
can go.
You want me to go? All right.
Yeah.
So with the Air Operations Unit, when I came in as sheriff, I recognized that it wasn't functioning to the best of its ability, and it wasn't so much AOU Command's fault. It was kind of the mix-up between LETC. There's a lot of going behind what's seen in the training of pilots. It has to be certified by LETC, so they have to get a trainer to certify a pilot first, and then you have to go through the process of AOU app, and then you have to go to LATC training, and then you have to get trained by the unit itself, and then you're on a week probation, and then you're on, you know, able to pilot. So one of the things that we've tried to implement with AOU activity is giving them tactical flight officers, which means any person in SRT or the National Guard can be a TFO is what we call it, which can co-pilot any helicopter. They cannot pilot because that's the regulation on it by LETC, but they can get trained piloting and they can help out, flying an aircraft. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but to pilot an aircraft, you have to have a co-pilot. So that kind of helps eliminate, if two pilots can't get on, you can get a pilot and a TFO, and then you have an air support. The activity right now, from what I've seen, I know that we have a few pilots going through training right now, so that's a big halt on it. However, I know that our AOU lieutenant just resigned earlier today, so we promoted the sergeant up to lieutenant. We're working on finding a sergeant, and then continuing to go through that. So I think it's just we had a bit of command structure that needed to be refilled, and then from there we're working on getting people trained and able to do their jobs. Once that happens, obviously there's going to be airships up and you're going to have all the air support in the world. That's what you can answer now.
Okay, and BR.
Okay, I'll try to answer them best of my ability because AOU is a unit that I don't have access to, and Daniel does. But I will say that AOU, that inactivity just has the result from like the partner things and stuff like that. Because AOU used to have like the 2 pilots and stuff, and even with the tactical flight officer and stuff like that, sometimes it can be a little bit hard to even get someone on the co-pilot because you're just co-piloting, you're sitting in there. It's still cool, don't get me wrong, but you'd rather be the pilot, But like he said, outside the sheriff's office can't control outside factors. We can't control how fast Let's goes, or how slow they go, or etc. Vice versa. You can't control outside factors for pilots. So if you were looking for the activity of the air unit, your best bet is to just look at Let's See, because Let's See is the one responsible for hiring or for training and getting these pilots up in the air. The sheriff's office, when the division opened, hired, and it was all hype and stuff because Let's See because they wanted pilots up immediately. But now, since the update has been around for quite some time, Let's See is actually now about to have a class, I believe. So their priorities might shift and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you really want AOU to be active or the air unit, you got to talk. It's all up to Let's See. The division has done well, and under my administration, I plan to keep it well with the people, and the people are very well. And when they do need pilots, the way they recruit is very well as well. I have nothing wrong with the activity besides it's Let's See who's preventing it.
Okay, and this fish dude, or James, I guess, he has a question I just want to give y'all in game.
Do you want to like narrate it, or does someone else want to do that?
No, this the minion Tic Tac dude on stage. If he can give y'all the question.
I meant like read into the voice chat.
Do you think Diddy should be freed? If so or not,
Oh
why?
boy.
Oh jeez.
If y'all want to answer, go ahead. I mean, oh, never mind, he's gone. Who's our next question then, Joseph? All right, Firestone. Help intruder in back. There are peoples in the back that aren't supposed to be there.
Okay.
Okay,
Jones hand fan.
Well,
Yep, I
the
guess
security should
Jones
deal
fan
with those
fan.
people in the back. I don't know.
Either works. You can do either. Just do it in the game. Or VC, okay.
Hello. Okay, I just had a question for both of y'all. Obviously we had some position questions. I was wondering if you guys had any plans for mutual aid with other agencies. I know you talked about PR events, but specifically with the Transit Authority or the fire department, because I've heard a lot of voices in there saying that they want to have things. I know that the Park Service was working with the fire department on some kind of like searching aid. I know we have the transit. There's like certifications for protections for them, but kind of what you guys are thinking for the future with relations with them in units or task forces, I guess, with them, because there were talks about protections for them and stuff, especially because in this day and age, it's not just the cops that get targeted, but it's also the fire department and the tow operations unit and whatnot.
I can take this one if you
Yeah.
want, BR, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good question. As for the fire department, I know that previously me and the fire chief and a couple of his guys, a couple of my guys, we were working on finding a way, first of all, to implement fire investigations into the RCSO, because I know that the fire investigations doesn't really have the law enforcement abilities that the sheriff's office does, obviously. So we're working on finding kind of a way to kind of get them involved in the sheriff's office and making fire investigations, whether it be a task force, a unit, whatever it may be, kind of an investigative force inside the sheriff's office and fire department, working out how the logs would be settled and stuff like that. Because I think it'd be really cool to see an actual fire investigation should like an update happen, or even right now with the fire bombs and cars being blown up and stuff like that. As for transit authority, yes, we do have transit police certifications. If I'm correct, transit authority certifications, protection certifications are given in the academy. So every deputy that goes through the academy will be getting a certification, and whether or not they want to do it, that's up to them. We can't really force it. However, it's funny you mentioned the task force, because I have mentioned that before to one of my lieutenants, Ranjit. he is a very transit authority protector kind of guy. He loves doing protections on transit authority. I've seen him do it multiple times. So obviously we try to work together, finding a middle ground of what we can do for the transit authority because they are our county partner, and we kind of want to make sure you guys aren't getting shot up, every time it happens, and you guys try to go on a route. So I think, making a task force might not be the worst idea, and we've talked about that time and time again. And we're just finding out the logistics of it and how we can make it work to the best of our ability with logs and permissions and stuff like that. So it's all about finding the logistics out and then acting on them. Once we have those figured out, the setup is not that hard itself. Um, so that's what we're looking at right now. So that was a good question. Thank you, BR.
Yeah, so Daniel was talking about that FD thing. He was working with a couple of people. I don't know if you forgot. I was working with that as well, trying to make legislation for that. So FD, if I do get the position of sheriff, would like to continue tackling on that with other senators and stuff to help, really make sure FD gets that program set up and dandy. As long as protection for FD is mod protected, but I do understand you guys still get shot up and still get killed. And I think just in general patrol protecting you is a great way to start having FD protected, like having patrol officers protecting you on scenes and stuff. Let's go. No, we go back to transit. When we go to transit authority, we do have the TA or the transit or the TP, transit police. I don't know why I call it TA, but transit police. It's been around forever, and ever since, it's just whenever or not deputies really want to do it. I wouldn't enticingly say that deputies should protect, RCTA. RCTA is a wonderful department. It's led by some good people, and transit police adds that extra cool atmosphere that the sheriff's department has. Like, hey, we got this cool stuff. Like it really, shows the public engagement that hey, we got more than just like, county jurisdiction and helicopters and stuff. We got cool stuff like transit police. Going back to fire, I think the fire department, really great department. They bunch of cool guys in there. And even though you do lack the game sometimes, I mean, we offering you programs and offering you stuff to help you and protect you with law enforcement is always a priority for protecting our non-law enforcement agencies. Same with TA.
And I believe he has one more question.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Obviously, we have, some good stuff out. Our community partners are great for the most part, and we get help with traffic or whether it's airlifts, whatever. My other question was, I just completed Let's See for one of the expedited things. It was was it June? Yeah, June. I was wondering kind of what you guys plan for your future candidates and your application stuff, because I see there's some spots in patrol and some spots around, because I figure you're coming for the next class, but kind of what you do for incentives, because I heard BR talk about it. I heard you Reagan kind of skip out, not skip, but rather like go light on it, kind of more in depth about what you guys plan to do to keep deputies around and to keep incentives for both new and incoming deputies, or sorry, for former, current, and incoming deputies or candidates.
So, BR again, if you don't mind, I can go first. If you want to go, you got it. I don't.
Yeah, I can go first this time.
All right.
So going more in depth in the incentives, right? Okay. So a lot of the incentives has to do with in-game, or it could be a little out of game, like patrol logs and stuff. But incentives and stuff like unmarks and certain stuff you can wear is the main types of incentives that we try to use, or at least what I've seen used to try to get deputies to patrol more. And it does work. I think Reagan can agree that sure as hell some deputy and squad B would love to go and drive it unmarked. So that's an incentive that works a lot, is getting, these deputy stuff to do in reward. So like, vest, like he mentioned, or like I mentioned, unmarks, certain type of vehicles, outfits, these incentives really drive current deputies currently in the department. Now, what about people coming in? Well, the incentives I really have is the sheriff's office itself. I mean, the reason you apply for the sheriff's office is the family. You know, there's no greater department than the sheriff's office. And when you apply, your main incentive is having good people to work with and many awesome divisions to, work with. Besides state police, we have so much to offer. We got cool vehicles too. I mean, who wouldn't want to join? But we got CID, IA, the air unit that a lot of people enjoy when it's active, of course, and up and running. And, PR if you're into that. And the corrections, and we have the correction officers. Even if you don't have a Let's See certification, we have stuff that entices people that from the outside who want to come in, you know. And I think if, for those people who graduate Let's See and want to join a good department, sheriff's office is the best way to go. And our incentives are all written all over the place, Take a look at our roster and look who we have open. That's enticing stuff you want to get into. The sheriff's office can really propel your career somewhere. If you want to leave, don't leave, please. But if you want to resign and go somewhere, other places, the sheriff's office is a very credible department. And I'll always stand by that. The sheriff's office is the number one department and is like the best places to go. And as for current deputies, like I said, incentives like, vehicles, vests, maybe like patrol logs reduced, if you do such and such amount of hours, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's all I have, really. So I'll hand it off to Reagan.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna try to make it short and sweet because this is getting dragged out. I think someone
Yeah.
said that this is like the longest debate by like 22 minutes. So one of the things that I've tried to do is, I don't know if you follow along with the public announcements in RCSO, but we did have a plainclothes day where I allowed all deputies to go in game and dress in appropriate plainclothes attire, use a couple unmarked cars, and really have fun at cracking crime in whatever outfit they so choose. There is a picture somewhere, I can send it to you later, of our deputies like all hanging out in their unmarked clothes, and I think that's just a really like cool way to get involved with each other and with the community, as well as like stopping crime. Sometimes it's harder to see an unmarked car hiding behind a bridge waiting for you to break the law. So I think it's just a way to get our deputies in the game a little bit more, stuff like that. Even on the 4th of July, I kind of held a contest where deputies can dress up in their favorite USA attire, and really find out who has the best taste in clothing. If you won, you got an exemption from logs or unmarked stuff like that. And even the other day, NCAA 25 came out on consoles. I allowed deputies to wear their favorite college football jersey while patrolling. So I think those small little details do go a long way. Obviously, we're looking at some bigger incentives that can come along the way. Exemptions from logs, people do take that because sometimes their lives get busy or they don't want to feel the need to always get on the game. So I think that's a big thing. For former deputies, I know you mentioned former. You look at our RCSO chat. I think a lot of friendships are made there. So with all of our former deputies, if you're in good standing in the department and you resign, you get the chance to get the former deputy role, and you get to be able to communicate with your friends still in the chat. So I think that's a really cool way of doing it too. Yeah, so I just think we have a lot of opportunities that keep our department incentivized. You're good, and we can go to the next. Our closing statements is next.
Yeah, because I don't think we have any more questions.
Thank you, Jones.
Yeah, I think it's it.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph, for the question.
Yeah, no problem.
So I believe we're going to move on to closing statements. Would either you like to go first? Hello?
PR, you can go first if you want.
All right.
Want me to go first? Okay. Well, I think this debate has been really opened my eyes, and maybe some of you, the public, your eyes. Just to recap, the sheriff's department, or the sheriff's office is the number one department in the county. I will never let that fall. And as sheriff, I promise you, 100%, the sheriff's office will continue to grow and be the biggest department I think you've ever seen. The many people and many members of the public love this department. And as sheriff, I promise I'm not going to let this office fall. I'm not going to let this department fall down. You know, the sheriff's office is a place of friendship, family, and so much more. It's more than a department. It's really just it's a whole community in itself, you know. And I really think that as sheriff, I can really bring that community to light and really bring its true form out of friendly behavior and so much more. As sheriff, like I said, transparency, number one goal. That's going to be my goal for my entire administration if elected. And I will never back down from transparency because, like I said, the only way to have a police department or a sheriff's office in this case is to have the public back you. And the public doesn't back you, then your department will not thrive. So, as sheriff, day one, we're getting there. Transparency, going to get some PR people, civilian PR workers or not. We have so much good people and so much talent in the office that can be used even more and get to its maximum potential more than it is already. We just have to find the right person in that seat to unlock it. And I think I have the key to unlock all that potential that's hidden so deep inside this office. As someone who's been, I would say, for about day one of the office, I mean, you can count class 2 as not day one, but whatever. I have seen this office go through thick and thin, and I have seen it rise and down and go ups and down, and it has its ups and downs and whatever. I've been through all the current sheriffs, and for my 4-year tenure, I must say that this office under my administration will have one of the best ever. One of the best this department will be under me. And I really hope that to you voters out there, you really vote wise and not out of spite. And, it's all, at the end of the day, it's all fun and games and it's all Roblox. And I hope my opponent feels the same way. That is my closing remarks. I thank you, everyone, and vote BR for sheriff.
All right, I'm gonna try to be a little bit shorter than that because I have to, I have real life. So we had a pretty fun debate tonight, guys. I think you guys had a lot of questions for us. I think you really saw the in depth of what our campaigns are trying to do for the sheriff's office. One thing I want to point out is BR spoke pretty elegantly on how the sheriff's office is not where it should be and how, there are issues and all this great stuff, right? And then he comes back at the end of the debate and talks about how the sheriff's office is the best department in the game and how we are this and how we are that good. So it just really shows that does he know what he's talking about? And I think the best way to figure out if someone knows what they're talking about is that they've served 2 consecutive terms as the sheriff, almost over a year now. They continue to do the job, they continue to do it well, and we are not slowing down now. So that's really what I have to get across to you guys. We have done great work, we're going to continue to do it, and there's no chance in hell that we are slowing down. All I can ask from you is that you either went out today or you go out right now at 11:15, 45 minutes before the ballots close. You go to the polls and you vote Daniel Reagan for sheriff as your number 1 choice. Thank you and have a great night.
Okay, that's a good place to end
That's
off.
good. All right.
Thank
if
you
I wanna
everyone
go-
for watching. That was great debate. Way too long though. But thanks for watching.
Yep. Yeah, we thank you for your time, audience and candidates. I don't think there's really anything else I need to say. But good night. Oh, and this is our first show too, and I think it went really well. Really well. So there's that too.
This is the stream over.